Hi, everyone. Welcome. Hope you're all having a good day. That countdown music is a jam. It's the second day in a row I was like still dancing when I came into the room. Welcome in. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm here. I'm live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and good old LinkedIn. And I'm on day 4 of 30 days of going live every single day. And it's fun so far. And there's some stuff at stake if I don't go live every day. My business coach and I have agreed that we're going to hold each other accountable to go live every single day for 30 days. And if we don't, we each have a consequence. And mine is to post an objectively unflattering photo of myself, which she will choose the angle for. so far, 4 days in, 4 days in a row, glad to be doing it. As you're watching this, if you're watching live, come say hello in the comments. If you're watching on the replay, come say hello in the comments. Also, feel free to come and say hello in the DMs or set up a time to talk with me. I love feedback. I love hearing what you want to hear about. And if you've got topics that you want to talk about related to executive coaching, fine as a trap, boundaries, burnout, perfectionism, workaholism, bosses, bad companies, good companies, finding yourself, getting promoted, getting the job, whatever you want, just let me know. And I've got 30 days of topics coming, so you let me know and I will bring it into the mix. So tonight, we're going to talk about what's wrong with you. And so I'm going to lean in and give you the punchline, which is there is nothing wrong with you. You are amazing. You're great. You're smart. You're creative. You're clever. You deserve all of the best things in life. And I truly believe that. And also existing at the same time as you being as amazing as you are. And yes, I'm talking to you. Don't look behind you at the person who's down the road from you. Look at you. The thing that you're doing wrong in the whole scheme of telling yourself what's wrong with you is that you're telling yourself what's wrong with you. So there's this, sort of feeling that if I'm the meanest to me, if I am the most critical of me, nobody else can be quite as critical as I'm being of me. And what happens when we do that is we talk ourselves out of opportunity. We tell ourselves and other people what we're not allowed to have. And this happens in our careers in talking ourselves out of saying no. It happens in talking ourselves out of setting boundaries of any kind. It helps us gaslight ourselves out of believing we're in burnout because for whatever reason, we think we shouldn't be. We think we're wrong for being in burnout. It makes it so that we tell ourselves if we were some kind of better, stronger, louder, braver, smarter, faster at our work, that we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in. Like it's our own fault if we're working in a job where we are underpaid, underrespected, underrepresented, not at the right level, not getting the title that we deserve, not sitting at the tables that we deserve to sit at. We make it our fault and that there's something wrong with us. And so I want to separate out the something wrong with us and the fault. I don't really like the word fault, but I'm going to start with the something wrong with us. And then I'm going to move to fault or responsibility or capability. So the wrong is that we get into the work world early in our careers. We have some successes, we have some failures, some learning experiences. But initially, as we're coming into the work world, very often, especially for high achievers like us, we come into the work world, we're doing our best, we're getting some positive feedback, we're getting a little bit confident in what we're doing and how we do it, and what we like to do and what we don't like to do. And one day, we stand up and we say something or do something that we think is appropriate or good or leadership oriented or taking initiative, and somebody shoots us down. And that's the first time. It's sort of the infancy of our careers, right? And you see it in like babies, toddlers who are learning the ropes on what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And when they start getting told no, how that impacts them. You can like see hurt feelings on a small child's face, which is horrible to see. Like, it's very sad to see. You can see it with animals too. When you tell a pet no, or you tell them that they've been bad, you can see like hurt feelings on their faces. When you have this as an adult in the work world, and you've been sort of chugging along, doing things well, getting lots of praise, and then instead of getting praise, you get some kind of discipline or disapproval, right? You start to formulate in your brain what is wrong with you as a professional. And so I'll give you an example of my own, which is that early in my career, I had some challenges with my manager, and he didn't like me, was the bottom line. I wasn't like as fun, I think, as a lot of the people in the company were. It was a young, fun, happening kind of company, and I was in HR, and you have like a more serious sort of tone when you're HR. You go have friends with your friends. You go have fun with your friends outside of work, and you sort of keep it tied up at work. And he didn't like me, and he told people he didn't like me. It was like sort of a known. And there was a level I should have and could have been promoted to that he was not willing to promote me to unless he was forced to. And at the same time, like, he didn't have scruples, and did a lot of favors for people, and promoted people who weren't ready to be promoted, and all of that sort of thing. So I'm watching other people get promoted who aren't working as hard or as well as I am. I'm a known leader among people. And I go to the head of HR for the region, who was an indirect report for me. And I laid out my case. And I said, he said he's not going to promote me. He has said that unless he is forced to, he's not going to promote me. And at the same time, I know that I'm excelling. I get thank yous from everybody that I work with for being kind, for being helpful, for being strategic. Every time there's a new HR person anywhere in the area, they get sent to me to be trained and mentored. And I'm now at the point where I'm training people who are being promoted before I am promoted. So I'm training them, and they're asking why I'm not at the level they're being promoted to. And I laid out all my successes and all my stuff. And the head of HR was friends with my boss and said to me, "Lauren, is there nothing you could be working on? Like, there's got to be something. There's got to be a reason. I mean, he wouldn't just not promote you." So this was so early in my career. I think I was probably, 3 years into my HR version of my career. And 3 or 4 years. And I had been really excelling. And because she asked me if there was nothing I could improve upon, and I couldn't think of anything in the moment, I said, "I'll think about it." And I thought about it for the next 15 years. So it wasn't even real criticism, because she didn't have any feedback for me about what I could be doing better. I was excelling, and I got this one comment that made me think whatever I was doing wasn't good enough. And I see this with my clients all the time. And it makes me like so mad for them, not at them, because we all have internalized some level of criticism or feedback or something that then has like blown up in our minds. The answer, had I been more confident, would have been, yes, there are always things we can improve on, but I'm I'm excelling and I'm performing at the next level. And my boss has said he's not promoting me unless he absolutely is forced to. So I know that there's something that's not aligned here and that's not lining up. And, shortly after, they moved me to another office under another boss, and that was a whole other story. But they knew that he wasn't doing the right thing and that he wasn't going to do the right thing. And I see this with my clients all the time, where they stand up in a room to say something, to show some leadership, to demonstrate that they know something, that they're part of the team, that they're a collaborator. They get shut down in some way. And it can be smaller and indirect, the way mine was. In some cases, it's nobody invited you to speak in that meeting. And that's all it takes. And for years after, there is this assumption that there is something wrong with me as a human, that I speak too much, that I'm too much, I'm too loud. I put myself in places where I don't belong. And you shut yourself down. And then you've told yourself you're too much. So you try to be less. You try to be less whatever. And the clients who come to me, who are just like freaking amazing people, who are executives or directors or ready to be executives, and they can't figure out why they don't get promoted, it's because at some point in your career, you got some kind of feedback that made you think you were too something and wrong for it. And therefore, you held yourself back. And so I have had clients who come in the door with just like the greatest smarts and creativity and leadership skills. And then they tell me all the reasons they can't, all the things they can't have because of some piece of feedback that either they received or they perceived during their time. So now we've developed these ideas in this bucket of things that are wrong with us. I talk too much. I speak when I'm not called on. The seat at the table doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my boss. This other person is more well-liked than I am. I need to be more likable. I need to be quieter or louder or funnier or more serious or whatever it is. So we create this bucket of the things that are wrong with us, and we try to compensate, often by people pleasing. Lifelong people pleaser here, often by people pleasing. And we try to compensate, and we try not to get in the way. We try not to be too much. And what happens is then we put ourselves in this hole. We put ourselves in this hole that we can't dig out of. That is what we believe to be the top of the ladder we can climb into in our careers. Because we are too quiet, too loud, too fill in your own blank of what you tell yourself you are too much of. So then we sit in this place where we think we've reached our upper limit. Some of my clients call this golden handcuffs. Some of my clients call this the glass ceiling. Some of my clients call this like I'm just not skilled enough to get the things I want, be in the job I want, I'm not worth any amount of money. And so you know better than I do what the names are that you call yourself. You know better than I do what the insults are that you tell yourself about your level of professional being. And like I said before, nobody can insult me the way I insult me. I'm the best. If I'm going to be the best at something, it's the best critic of myself. So congratulations, Lauren, you get a medal for being the best critic of yourself. What happens when we tell ourselves that we are wrong in some way, whatever we are too much or too little or too off center of, is that not only do we believe it, but then we move over to the fault/responsibility side. And I'm going to use the word fault because you all use the word fault. It's my own fault because I did this one thing this one time. It's my own fault. I ruined my own career progression because I took time off, because I didn't assert myself in the first 10 years of my career, and I didn't get promoted enough. So now it's too late for me. My career is too long as a mid-level professional, and I can't get to the next level. So the fault, the responsibility, you can see every time I say the word fault, I hate it and I make a face about it, but it's really the responsibility, right? The responsibility is now what? What do I want to do with that? Okay, I haven't asserted myself enough. Now what? That's where the responsibility comes in. And that's where so many of us are too scared to take the look and to take the steps that are needed to get out of our own way and decide now what. So if I look at a case of a client, and this describes multitudes of my clients who all come to me and say, I'm willing to take a pay cut to get out of this company. I'm willing to take a level cut if I can get into a better company where I can like start my growth over again. If you are telling yourself that, then you have taken responsibility for downgrading yourself. And that means that you're going to apply for jobs that are too small for you. You're going to get rejected from those because the people who look at your resume are going to see that the jobs are too small for you. And then you're going to go after jobs that are like the same level of mediocrity for what you are good at, that are not going to challenge you. You're not going to want to stay in those jobs. You're going to get into this pattern of continuing to ask for more and not getting it. And so the responsibility piece is way more important than what you've already told yourself. The responsibility piece is the what now. Where have I talked myself out of being allowed to be successful? Where have I talked myself out of being allowed to set boundaries? Where have I talked myself out of being allowed to say, I'm in burnout, I need some time off, and I'm not going to check email while I'm off? Then we get to decide, what are we doing next? And that is the important piece in all of this, is what do you do with the information that you've sold yourself on as being true about you, right? So when my clients come and they tell me, here are all the things that are wrong with me, or here are all the things that are wrong in my career, or here are all the things I can't have, my response is always, first, thank you for sharing that with me, because that's really scary stuff to share. When you share your truths that you've created or that have been created for you, that you decided to believe and that you continue to believe, then absolutely those things sit inside of you and they're very scary to say out loud. So first, I'm going to thank you for saying them. Then we're going to really explore them. Where did those ideas come from? Where did those truths come from? How often were you told those truths? What kinds of things did you try to make your truths a little bit different? What are you willing to try, right? What do you actually want? And what's the gap between where you are and what you want? And is that a fillable gap? I remember I had one client who she worked in HR, which is actually not typical. Even though my former career was HR, I've only had a couple of HR clients. My clients are sort of all over the corporate expanse. But she was in HR. She was on the people side of HR. And she loved HR, but only when her door was closed. And that was important because she didn't have a door. So her door was only closed when she worked remotely. And it was the beginning of the pandemic when she was my client. So she was remote about 50% of the time, but she worked in a factory setting. So she had to be in to be with the people who were on the floor. And she really, really liked the operations side of things. And anytime somebody came to her, because she was the people HR person, she just hated it. And she said, but there's nothing for me to do. There is an operations side of HR that I would love to be on, but there's nothing for me to do because I already chose the people side. I'm not allowed to move to the operations side of HR. And she truly believed that. And part of her belief was that operational HR positions had opened while she was there. And nobody had approached her to ask her if she wanted to apply for operational HR jobs. So because nobody had approached her, she assumed they wouldn't want her for the operational HR job. Now, this also spread to all of her work in HR, that she did really good work. She was very well trusted. And also, she was so hesitant to speak up in meetings. She was a natural introvert. She didn't think anybody would want to hear what she had to say. There were other people in the department who were way louder and way more extroverted than her. And those things aren't necessarily always hand in hand, but in this case, they were. The extroverts were much louder. And so in our work together, the first thing that she had to do before she could even express interest in another position was learn how to speak up. And this was an accomplished person. This was not an entry-level child. This was an accomplished human who had had a long career in HR, and she just had learned to be fearful of speaking up, because sometimes when she spoke, people spoke over her. Sometimes when she spoke, a mean girl in the room would roll her eyes. And her boss was an extrovert who didn't draw her out. So she just sort of assumed that nobody really wanted to hear from her. Well, she started to get braver in our work together. And as she started to get braver, she was noticing that her boss did want to hear from her and was so glad she was speaking up. She noticed that when she was strategic about speaking up in a meeting, which for her meant that she got the agenda in advance, which she always did, she looked at the agenda, decided where on the agenda she wanted to contribute during that meeting, made some notes, waited for the discussion to come up, and then she had some notes already for where she wanted to contribute. Not necessarily that she could predict where the conversation went, but she knew what was going on in the department and she had some ideas. And when she came in that targeted way, people were listening to her because she was really smart. She is a really smart woman. And she started getting some attention, and she still didn't want the attention. So what she shifted from was, these are all of the things that are wrong with me. And so because I've decided not to pursue those things, I'm stuck in this job in this way for the foreseeable future. She shifted to, this is the way I think I've been seen in the past. This is what I want. This is my path to get it. And she took a bunch of low risk moves to figure out where she could test the waters and where she wanted to test the waters and where she didn't want to test the waters. And it turned out that all the areas she was talking about and contributing to were the operational end of the people side of HR. And so she was streamlining people projects because she understood operations so well. And eventually she got the guts to talk to her boss and say, you may have noticed that when I contribute to conversations, it's almost always about making things better operationally. And he said, I did notice that. And I think that's amazing. And I think it's so great that you're speaking up in meetings. I've been waiting to hear from you. And it's so great that this is happening. She said, I want you to know that I'm interested in the operations side of HR. And when a position opens up, I would really like to be considered for it. And he said, thanks for letting me know. I had no idea you had what your career aspirations were. We've never talked about that. Now, would her manager have talked to her about her career aspirations? Maybe. Not everybody's good at everything. A lot of managers are really stuck in the day-to-day, and they don't think about their employees' futures. A really good people leader does, but not all people leaders do. And the next time a job came open, not only did she interview for it, she got it, and she's much happier because she gets to keep her proverbial door closed almost all the time. She really likes the quiet, introspective, spreadsheet-based, project-based work. She enjoys the meetings where she gets to talk about that work, but she no longer is the go-to for employees because she works on the back end of HR now. And that's such a great example of somebody who spent a lot of time talking to herself about what was wrong with her, spent a lot of time believing that so much that she didn't get what she wanted because she told herself she couldn't have it. And then when she started actually working through it and she started actually deciding okay, maybe that was wrong with me in the past, or something I thought was wrong with me in the past, but I actually want this. So I'm willing to fill in the gaps and be the level of communicative, assertive that I can get comfortable being so that I can ask for what I want. And I think about that a lot with my clients, because a lot of what we do is we tell ourselves what's wrong with ourselves so that we don't have to take the risk, because it's already wrong. We're already wrong. So, if we're wrong and it can't be fixed, then there's no risk in saying, I want more. I want a bigger job. I want a better job. I want more money. I want more respect. I need to take things off my plate. I want to add this to my plate. I want to be on that project team. We talk ourselves out of it because we tell ourselves what's wrong with us. So I want you to leave tonight thinking about that. And I want you to think about, what are the things that you tell yourself are wrong with you that you're not allowed to have, because those are the things that are wrong with you. And if those things weren't wrong with you, what might be possible? What are you after? Is it more money? Is it a seat at the table? Is it more respect? Is it a totally different job or career? Is it boundary setting? Is it recovering from burnout? Is it stopping being a workaholic? Is it stopping being a perfectionist or a people pleaser? And if you're ready to actually talk about that, come set up a time to talk with me. You can send me a DM in whatever platform you're seeing this in. You can send me an email. My email's in my LinkedIn profile, or you can go straight to setting up a strategy call. You can find that in my LinkedIn profile as well. Reminder that I'll be going live every day for 30 days. Today was day 4. And if you have topics you'd love to hear about, just let me know. Send me a DM or comment in the comments on whatever platform you're watching me in. Thank you so much and have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.